All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to another CPTC meeting, again, every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. So some things to know. Next week, Connor Catlett will be presenting on binary exploitation part 2. For those who went to his first binary exploitation lecture, it was really good. It was a really good introduction to binary exploitation. And so for the part 2 next week, he's going to be continuing. He's going to show, it's going to be also beginner friendly, but it's going to show a couple of different more attacks. I think last week it was buffer, or the week before it was buffer overflow. I think he's going to go over some different types like format strings and stuff like that. So definitely be there for that next week. Another thing is that I'm working on getting all the past meeting recordings uploaded to YouTube. There's a lot. There's like, I want to say almost 10 right now, and they're like super long. So it's going to take a while, but I'm getting that. I'll have that uploaded to, I think, the UFC PTC main YouTube channel. And then I'll just send a link in Slack and Discord once I have those all those uploaded. Okay, cool. So what we're doing today is beginners. We're going to be going through the TriAcme room called Kenobi. I haven't done it before at all, so you're going to see me just sort of go through it like on my own, just sort of the thought process. You can follow along with me on Kenobi if you'd like. But then after that, you guys are going to work on the TriHacking room called the COD Caper on your own. And this is all Linux hacking based. So it's going to be 2 Linux machines that we're going to be hacking into today, because the 2 lectures ago, we focused on Windows hacking. So today we're going to do a bit of a beginner introduction to Linux. And then the more advanced people, you guys can work on the Hack the Box called Open Keys. And you guys can hop in the Discord voice chat. You guys don't have to stay in the Zoom meeting for that. You guys can just hop over on Discord and work on that box. It's a good medium box for, I believe it's OpenBSD. So that's definitely a unique box on Hack the Box. So definitely recommend. Are there any questions? Okay, cool. So if not, then I'm going to go ahead and close this. And then I will reshare my screen. One second. Okay, cool. Can you guys see that okay? Awesome. Cool. So I'm just going to go to TriHacme right now, and then just go to the room. I'm going to go to activities. I'm going to look for, type in Kenobi was the name of the box. And if you guys have any questions while I'm going through this box, just either put something in the chat or speak up. What are you going to do? It's intended to be like, ask as you go kind of deal. So I'm going to go ahead and join this room. And then I'll go ahead and deploy the box. It takes a minute, so I'm going to open my terminal here to get set up on my little environment here. So I have a directory called TriHacme. I'm going to make a directory called Kenobi for this challenge. Oh. Kenobi. Cool. And then I'm going to put up another tab here. And I'm going to start up my OpenVPN connection. Cool. So now we're connected to the private network. So now I just got to wait for this. So I guess we can start reading it. This room will cover accessing a Samba share, manipulating a vulnerable version of Pro FTPD to gain initial access and escalate privileges to root via an SUID binary. So make sure you're connected to the network and deploy the machine. So we've deployed the machine. We'll complete that step. And then next step is going to be scanning the machine. So now we're just waiting for the IP to show up. And if you guys are having any issues with like getting OpenVPN set up or anything like that, just let me know. All right, so we got an IP. We'll go ahead and copy that, and then we're going to run an mmap scan. So this is the flags I always like to use: SC to run all scripts, SV to check all versions. Then I'm going to output it to a file called kenobi.mmap, and then the IP that we just copied over. And so we'll go ahead and run that. That's going to scan for all the ports. And the first question is pretty simple: just how many ports are open? So for those who don't know, the maximum number of ports that can exist on a machine or that's as open is 65,000. Nmap, with the Nmap scanner running right now, it doesn't check all 65,000. This command does not check. It checks like the most popular, I think the most popular 1,000 ports. So it's possible that whatever is showing up here isn't the correct number. There could be some more on a less common port, but we're going to try it just with the most common, because that's, again, the most common, and it's usually going to be the only ones that are open. But if this isn't wrong, then we can run a full Nmap scan to check all 65,000 ports.
Why do you have Kenobi.nmap at the end of your?
Oh yeah. So this just outputs this entire result into a file called Kenobi.nmap. So if I run ls, I now have Kenobi, and I can just cat it, just so I can look at it later if I have to. So yeah, so we got some ports here. Let's just count the numbers. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like 7 ports. So let's go ahead and see if that was the right answer. And it was. So if that was a wrong answer, I would probably run something like this, nmap-p- to check all 65,000 ports, to make sure it's like there's no ports that are like super uncommon, like maybe at like port, I don't know, 5,530 or something like that, something random. So this is going to check every single port, and that's going to take a long time. To make it go a little bit faster, if you do -T4 and then the IP, this will make it run a little bit faster, but it still takes a while. So it takes like a few minutes to run, but that'll check every port. But we don't have to do that now because we got the answer right. We found all the most common ports. So let's go to the next task. So Samba. So for those who don't know, Samba is like a standard Windows like suite of programs for Linux and Unix. It basically allows Linux to use SMB to interact with Windows. And Windows SMB is like it's like usually for like file sharing and stuff. If you don't know what Windows SMB is, like simple like file sharing within usually local networks. And Samba is just basically the Linux version of that. So using Nmap, we can enumerate a machine for SMB shares. Nmap has the ability to run and automate a wide variety of network tasks, and there's a script to enumerate shares. So we'll go ahead and run the script. It's possible that my scan already did that because I told it to run common scripts. No, it doesn't look like it did. So we'll go ahead and run this then. So we're going to run the command that they're saying here. It's going to be nmap. The exact port to specify, we can be port 445, and 445 is the SMB or Samba port. So that's why we're going to run the script specifically against that port, because it doesn't make sense to run it against any of the other ports since they're not running Samba. And then we're going to specify the script that we're going to run against it, called SMB enum shares. And for those who don't know what shares are like basically the directories or folders within SMB for file sharing. That's basically what it is. So we'll run this at enum users as well, NSC, and then the IP. We'll go ahead and run that. And so a little background here, SMB has 2 ports, 445 and 139. 139 SMB originally ran on top of NetBIOS using port 139. So it's just the older version, and 445 is for the later versions of SMB. So 445 is what you're mainly going to work with. Okay, so the script finished. So it looks like it found some shares here. We have, how many shares have were found? So we've got 1, 2, 3 shares, if I'm reading this correctly. We have a share called IPC $, a share called anonymous, and a share called print $. So we're going to go ahead and say 3 there. All right, cool. So most distributions of Linux, SMB client is already installed. Let's inspect one of the shares. So SMB client is just a tool, a Linux command line tool that lets you connect to a share to view any files that are inside that share. If you guys are using Kali Linux, it should automatically come installed. If not, let's see, Ubuntu install SMB client. I think you just do sudo apt install SMB client. That should work for you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and connect to the anonymous share. So we're going to do SMB client // This is just like the formatting you have to do for connecting to an SMB share. You have to do 2 slashes in the beginning, then the IP, and then the share you want to connect to, which in our case, we're going to connect to the anonymous one and see what happens. So enter the password. We're going to go ahead and just hit enter. because when it comes to anonymous login, 99% of the time, it's not going to require a password. So you can just hit enter and it'll let you through. And I can see here, it looks like it worked because we're now connected with an SMB prompt. So using your machine, connected to the machine's network share, we did that. Once connected, list of files and shareable file can you see. So we're going to do a simple, I think ls might work here. Cool. So we have a log.txt. So that's going to be the next answer here. Let's go ahead and log.txt. That's the file we saw. Cool. You can recursively download SMB share too. Submit the username and password is nothing. So, okay, cool. I don't know if I have SMB yet. I don't feel like downloading it. Oh, I do. Okay, cool. So the SMB-R, which is going to be recursive, basically means if in this share, let's say there's a list of like 100 files, not just one, we don't want to download each one of those individually. We just want to download it all at once. So you can use this command. So SMB get-R, and then SMB : the IP / anonymous password. That's not going to let me go, is it? Because I think it's John. Oh, wait. Okay. No, it did work. Okay, cool. So just download all of them recursively. So now we have our log.txt in here. So let's take a look at it and see if it's okay. So a little longer than I expected. So let's do less on it. All right, so we got some interesting stuff here. SSH key pairs, some configuration stuff for Pro FTP, and a few other things, some user and group information limits. Okay, cool. We'll take a look at this later. Let's go back to what tracking is saying. Open the file in the share. There's a few things found. Information generated for Kenobi when generating an SSH key for the user. Information about the Pro FTPD server. What port is FTP running on? So we can actually just, it probably exists in the log, but we can also just look at our nmap scan, Kenobi.nmap, and we can see here, FTP is on port 21, and port 21 is the default port for FTP. So whenever you think of port 21, just think of FTP. So go ahead and submit that. Awesome. Your earlier nmap port scan will have shown port 111 running the service RPC bind. This is just a server that connects remote procedure calls, program numbers into universal addresses. When RPC service is started, it tells RPC bind the address at which is listening and the RPC program number it's prepared to serve. So this is like commonly used for like users and stuff, or like various services. It gets like with file systems, etc. It's a little confusing. I wouldn't worry about like, I guess, how it works at the moment, but we'll just focus on like what scripts we can run against it to see what we can get from it. So in this case, the port RPC bind has access to the network file system. So we'll use another nmap script to enumerate this. So we're going to nmap -p111 because that's the port number that's running the RPC bind service, and then the script is going to be nfs-ls nfs-stat statfs nfs-show mount, and then the IP. Go ahead and run that. Okay, so it looks like it found a /var. So we'll go ahead and enter that /var. Awesome.
What is NFS?
So NFS stands for network file server or system. I think it's server. It's basically a remote file share that you can access like without being actually on the physical computer. So it's intended so like if you wanted to access a file on that computer from another computer, you would set up an NFS so it can be accessed that way.
That's so like using a shell to get into other.
Almost like that. It's basically like if let's say I had like, I don't know, an important document, or not even important. Let's say I had like a document that I needed you to access, like maybe let's say insurance information, right? If we worked at a company, and if we worked at the same company, but we obviously use two different computers, I would set up an NFS that will then contain that file, and basically then you'll connect that NFS and then retrieve that file and either copy it over to your machine or edit it from there, whatever you want to do. But it's basically a way of sharing files.
It's like a middleman of holding files.
Exactly. Yeah. It basically allows you so that like any files on your local computer can also be accessed by other people that's not on your local computer. And that's what we found here. We basically found an NFS called /var, which is basically a folder /var that may contain some interesting stuff. So finish this section. Let's go ahead and close this. All right, so Pro FTPD is a free open source FTP server compatible with Unix and Windows. It also has been vulnerable in the past. So let's check the version. We can use netcat to connect the machine on the FTP port. I think our Nmap scan might already tell us the version, but I could be wrong. It does, 1.3.5. So that's definitely the version, but let's use netcat, like you're saying, to connect and see if we can find another version. So we do netcat, the IP, and the port 21, and it tells us there too. So 1.3.5. So that's how you can get it either from the Nmap scan or just from connecting to it directly using netcat. So 1.3.5 will be the answer there. Awesome. So we can use.
Wait, your command was netcat? Because I did it and I got no ports to connect to.
Yeah, is it netcat and then the IP then the port? Is that what you did? Like that?
Oh, I didn't do the port.
Yeah, you got to make sure you specify the port, or else it won't know, I guess, like what service you want to connect to. But then, yeah, that should work. Okay, so we can use searchpoint to find exploits for a particular software version. Searchpoint is basically just a command line search tool for exploitdb.com. For those who don't know, exploitdb.com is like just an exploit database. So for like if there's like a vulnerability that exists and there's like a proof of concept for it, it'll almost certainly be on this site, exploitdb. So if you're looking for one, you can search on here, or you can use the command line version, which is called searchpoint, which basically lets you do it from the command line instead of having to go in your browser and do it. So we'll go ahead and use searchpoint and find the exploit for it. How many exploits are there for Pro FTPD running? All right, so let's do, I think I have searchpoint. Okay, cool. So Pro FTPD 1.3.5. Okay, so there's 3, it appears. There are 3 current exploits for this version of Pro FTP. 3, awesome. You should have found an exploit from ProFTP's mod copy module. We did. We have 2, it looks like. The mod copy module implements site CPFR and site CPTO commands, which can be used to copy files and directories from one place to another on the server. Any unauthenticated client can leverage these commands to copy files from any part of the file system to a chosen destination. So we know that the FTP service is running as a Kenobi user from the file and share, and an SSH key is generated for that user. That's what we saw in the logs, that an SSH key was generated for that user. So no action needed from there. We're going to now copy Kenobi's private key using site CPFR and site CPTO commands. So we're basically going to netcat into it, into the box, port 21. And then we're going to use the exact commands we're saying, site CPFR/home/Kenobi, because you know that's user exists. And then when you're generating an SSH key, by default, it gets stored in .ssh, and then it's in the file called ID_RSA. So that's the one that we're going to basically copy over. Enter there. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Oh, that's so annoying. I can't go back. CPFR/home/Kenobi.ssh, that's ID_RSA. And I keep having typos. Site.
You had it right the first time. It just wasn't. It wasn't CPFR.
Right. Yeah. All right. So site CPFR/home/Kenobi/.ssh/ID_RSA. Make sure that's right this time. CPFR/home Kenobi. Okay. Cool. So now we'll do site CPTO/var/tmp/ID_RSA. Basically, we're going to be copying it into the temp directory and /var/temp, and then inside ID_RSA. The reason why /var is because when we saw before that the /var directory was open in the NFS and we could access it. So that's why we're going to copy it to here. And copy successful. Awesome. We knew that the /var directory was a mount we could see, like I was just saying. So we now moved Kenobi's private key to the var temp directory. Awesome. So now let's Control-C this. So now we're going to mount that directory into our own machine. So I'll go ahead and make dir / mount. I'll call it, Kenobi NFS like they want me to. Oh, gotta be sudo for that. So you gotta do sudo make dir. That's for the password. Cool. And then we're gonna run the mount command. Basically, we're gonna mount that file system into our local directory so we can access all the files from it. So mount the machine's IP. Then we're gonna do /var /mnt /kenobi NFS. No such file or directory. Oh, there's supposed to be a space there. I'm done. All right. Thought that looked weird. Only root can do that. We're going to do sudo again on it. Bad option for several file systems. You might need a sbin mount type helper program. /var /mnt /kenobi NFS. Let's see if it even worked. Maybe that was just a warning. Nope, that did not work. All right, let me Google this error here. Bad option for several file systems. You might need a SM. Okay. Copy that. Sudo debugging. Okay, we had the similar error. This is relevant given that you're trying to mount NFS. Open programs provided by SCOM you can install using. Okay, let's. This person is saying, make sure you mount. Let's see if it is listed inside of sbin. Okay, let's see if that is. It is not. Check to see if package sys is installed. No, it doesn't install it. All right, let's go ahead and install it then. Sudo apt install sys utils. Cool. So let's. All right, so that's been created. So maybe the mount will work now. That option, you might need a SMB mount program. Okay, then let's try sudo apt install NFS common. Try both these. Okay, let's give it a shot. Okay, seems to be working now. Awesome. So now we can close that. Let's go back and let's check our mount. Awesome. So now we've got some stuff. Now we basically have mounted everything inside of /var into here. And so now we can go ahead and copy the SSH key that we copied over using FTP into our local directory, and we can just grab it and then we can mess around with it. So do this, TMP, IDRSA. Awesome. So now we have it here. Let's make sure it's there. Awesome. We now have the private key. So now we're down point machine. We can go to var.dom, we get the private key. All right, awesome. So for those who don't know, what this is IDRC. This is the SSH private key. So SSH has a public key and a private key. A public key can be shared with anyone. and it's perfectly fine too because it's used to encrypt traffic. The private key, however, should never be exposed to anyone. If any other computer can get your private key, they can basically then log in as you and impersonate you, which you definitely don't want. So anytime you, and like this is like in a real world scenario, anytime you think that your SSH private key has been exposed, you want to generate a new one and get rid of that old one because it's possible for them to then basically log into your machine and do whatever they want. So we just stole this Kenobi users their private key from their computer, and so now we're going to use that to SSH into that computer and have basically a terminal on the computer. So to do that, we're going to do SSH-I, give it the private key, and then Kenobi for the user, and then the IP that we're trying to connect to. Oh, forgot I copied the wrong thing. Back here, copy that, paste it there. Oh, okay, I clearly did not copy that. I'll just type it. Kenobi at 10.10.228.213. Type yes. Okay, so it's asking for a password. Oh, permissions are too open. Oh, sorry. Okay. So one thing you also have to make sure of is that the permissions on the actual IRSA file are exactly what they want. It's currently this right now, which is too open. I believe 600 is what you want. So if you do chmod 600 on that file at IRSA, and then try to run it, then we're good. So now notice our prompt changed to Kenobi at Kenobi. We now have a remote shell on that other box. And so now we have a user.txt. So we'll cat that, and we have the first flag. So I'll go ahead and copy that and put that in here for the answer. Oh. Copy, paste. Awesome. So now we just got the user flag. We now successfully hacked this computer. We basically gotten access to it as a local user called Kenobi. Who am I? We're now Kenobi. So now let's do some privs to get to root. So let's first understand what an SUID and SGID and sticky bits are. So the SUID bit, user executes a file with permissions of the file owner. SGID bit, user executes a file with permissions of the group owner. On directories, file creating directory gets the same group owner. Sticky bit, no meaning. Users are prevented from deleting from other users. Okay, so basically, in a simpler form, when you look at like here, so let's look at these files, right? Let's do ls/la. What we see here, right, on these files are just very simple read, write, read permissions for each user's groups and everyone respectively. So when you have in certain cases on a SUID file, an SUID file, there would be an S in here. It'll be, I believe, here, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll see it in a second. There'll be an S in here. And what that means is that you can basically execute, if it's an executable, we can execute that file as the permissions of the file owner. So if there was a file on here that was owned by root, for example, like let's say user.txt was an executable and it was owned by, not by Kenobi, but by root, and it had an SUID bit set, even though we're Kenobi, if we execute user.txt, it'll be executed as the root user, which basically means that we're running that executable as root user, which can be very dangerous if the executable is not safe. So that's basically what we're going to be looking for in this example to try to escalate privileges. SUID bits can be dangerous. Some binaries such as passwd need to be run with elevated privileges as is resetting your password on the system. So passwd is the example of a SUID binary, but it's safe, so it's okay to have it like that. However, other custom files could have the SUID bit and can lead to all sorts of issues. To search the system for these types of files, run the following commands. So we're going to do the find command to look for all files that have the SUID bit set. So we're going to do find slash, the slash is going to be the entire file system, dash permissions, dash u equals s for SUID, dash type is going to be a file. We don't care about directories. And then we're just going to, any sort of errors, we're going to send to devbell. All right, so found one so far, sbin-mount.nfs. Probably not something that we really care about because it's not really executable. All right, so we have a few here. So what file looks particularly out of the ordinary? So without really working with Linux Priv a lot of these might look out of the ordinary to you. but there's, and you can, and the easiest way to confirm is literally just, I guess, to look up, common SUID binaries on Linux. And then like most of these are going to show up. So we're looking for the one that's out of the ordinary, right? So from my general knowledge, I believe, I want to say user bin chefin. I've never heard that before. I think that one might be out of the ordinary. So let's see if that's the one. And I could be wrong. I'm not entirely sure. No, that was not the right one. Okay. It's one of the changes. Maybe it's CHS, that's SH then. No. So this is literally just me just like trying stuff at the moment. Just seeing which ones look out of the ordinary. Maybe menu. I've never heard of menu before. / user bin menu. Give that a shot. Okay, so look at user bin menu. So we can actually look up. Oops, should not have done that. File. Try hacking Kenobi. Okay, so let's look up Linux menu command. Let's see if that's even a thing. Nothing's really showing up here. So menu is not even a common command. So that's how you know it's fishy. So that's how we know that menu is like out of the ordinary. So let's run the binary and how many options appear. So let's do / user bin menu. Status check, kernel version, ifconfig. How many options appear? 3 options appear. So strings is a command on Linux that looks for human readable strings on a binary. So yeah, basically exactly what they said. We can run strings on a binary to get any human readable ASCII text. So strings on user bin.
That previous command said run the binary. How is user bin menu a binary?
So user bin menu is actually the path to the full binary. It's possible that we could just type, we can just actually do menu and it'll run. I was just doing the full path just to make sure. But so like menu is stored inside of the directory / user / bin. And then I was just specifying the full path. So you can either do / user bin menu or just menu. But yeah, menu is a binary that this challenge creator created that we're then going to use to get PrivEsk.
All right.
Yeah. What's the purpose of the owner creating a binary that a regular user can run as administrator? Great question. So there are certain binaries that have to be run as elevated permissions, in that case, the owner of that, in order to actually function. So the passwd command, which is a command that lets you change your password, needs to be a SUID binary because it needs to be able to run as root in order to change the /etc passwd file. Sudo a command as well. So like the sudo command basically lets you run a command as a different user. It needs to have the SUID bit set so that you can actually run it as said user. So it basically lets you, so like done correctly, it's the safest way of allowing one user to execute commands as another user. But if done incorrectly, it can lead to PrivEsk like we're about to see right now. But yeah, that's the intended purpose. It's for like, some common things like sudo or passwd. They need it in order to actually function properly. So let's go and run strings now. Strings on the binary. So let's do strings. And this time I have to specify the full path. So / user bin menu. And we get some output. And so this shows us the binary is running without a full path. It's not using / user bin curl or / user bin uname. So if we look for those, we can see here it's running these commands, right? Curl -i localhost uname -r. And so a binary or any sort of executable file or any code, when executing other commands, should specify the full path to those commands, not just the commands themselves. Because if you just do the commands themselves, it's possible that we can mess around with that and actually create our own malicious, in this case, our own malicious curl command, our own malicious uname command. And so when we run this, it'll basically run our executable instead of the actually correct one, which is what we're going to do right now. So this shows the binary is running without a full path. As this file runs as the root user privileges, we can manipulate our path to gain a root shell. So if we were to do this, right, basically what they're saying, echo slash bin slash sh into curl, or let's go into TMP actually. Let's do into the TMP directory. Okay, so echo slash bin slash sh into curl. So now if I do ls, right, we now have a file called curl. We do cat on that. It's just going to run this command. Bin sh, which basically means it's going to open up a shell. That's all it's going to do, right? So now we have this curl here. We're going to add executable permissions to it, or we can do 777 on it. Do ls again. Notice it turns green, which means it's an executable. If we do la on it, we can see here that it has the x, so it can be executed. So if when curl gets executed right now, it's just going to open up another shell like we have here. But if we were to run it right now, here, if I execute curl right now, it's going to open up a shell, like you can see here. But if I do who am I, I'm still just Kenobi, because Kenobi's the one who just ran that command, right? So I'll exit out of there. So that's what just happened here, right? But now what we wanted to do is actually want to get the menu command to execute this curl command, because we know that the menu command is being run as root. So if it's being run as root and it execute this curl command as root, then it's going to give us a shell as the root user, which is exactly what we want, right? And so to do that, we're going to have to manipulate the path environment variable by doing export path equals /tmp, which is the current directory in, and then we're going to append the rest of the path so that we don't mess with the path too much. So now if we do echo $path, we can see here our TMP has been added. And this is what it was originally, was just this. But we added our TMP. And what this path environment variable does, it basically means, so if we go back to the strings here, if I run strings again on /user bin menu, right? When it executes the curl command, right? Since it didn't specify the full path, like /user/bin/curl, since it didn't specify the full path, it's going to check the path environment variable, and it's going to look in each of the directories within this environment variable for the curl command, right? So without this, it will first look in home Kenobi bin, right? And check, is curl in here? No. All right, let's go here. Is it in there? No. Is it in /user local sbin? No. All right, let's check user local bin. Let's see, and let's say it's in there, right? Then it's going to run that curl command, right? So that's what this path environment is supposed to be. But what we did though is we added our temp directory to the beginning of this. So when our menu command runs curl, it's going to check this directory first, which is going to be the one that we own. And it's actually going to find a curl command. It's going to find the one that we just created, which is this one here. So that's the one that it's going to run. So that's what that command just did. So now if we do /user bin menu, right? And then we enter our option. So 1 status check. Notice now if we do who am I just open up a shell as root, and we just escalated our privileges to root. So we copied the bin sh shell, called it curl, gave it the correct permissions, and put its location in our path. This meant that when the user bin binary was run, it is using our path variable to find the curl binary. Pretty much what I just said, which is actually a version of user sh, as well as this file being run as root. It runs our root shell. So we completed that. And so now let's get the root flag by just doing, let's see where we are, temp. Let's go to /root. And let's cat the root flag. And boom. We just successfully escalated privileges on this box, and we now have full root permissions on it. And that's the box. Are there any questions on that last part? I know it can get a little bit confusing with like the path environment variables and like the chmod and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, what is chmod?
Oh yeah, great question. So chmod basically changes the permissions of permissions of a file. So like if I do ls-la right now, all of these right here, this right here is all permissions, right? And so we can change it using chmod. So for example, let's pay attention to curl right now. Right now it has rwx, 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 which is read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. On the file owner has those permissions. The group owner has these permissions, and then everyone else has these permissions, right? Let's say we want to make curl a non-executable anymore, right? We don't want the x anymore. We don't want to make it executable. We would do chmod -x, because we're subtracting the x now, and then curl, right? Now if we do ls-la, notice here that now the x is gone. It's replaced by a dash. So now it's just read, write, read, write, read, write. And let's say we want to give it back. We do chmod +x, add the x back on curl, ls-la, and the X is back, as you can see there. And you can do the same thing for read and write.
What's the dash to the front then?
The dash at the front. Oh, great question. So the dash at the front basically means it's reserved for the directory. So notice here, this thing here is a directory, so it has a D in front of it. Curl is a file, so it's empty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just reserved for whether or not it's a directory or not. Yeah, great question though. Yeah, so that's basically what Gmod does. Lets you modify any of these, and you can do it with like the way I like to do it is using like Gmod plus X minus X plus R minus R. But you can actually do it with numbers as well, with binary. So like when I ran before Gmod 777, that converts to read write execute because it's 7 here. So if you treat it as like 1 2 4 and then 1 2 4 1 2 4, add all that up together, that's 7. So we're basically gonna be 7 7 7 means all those bits are on. Which that's just like a way to do it if you want to use binary, but I like to do it with just doing simple like Gmod minus X kind of stuff. But that's another way you could do it, just with the numbers. So yeah, if there's no other questions, then we'll go ahead and I'll get you guys to work on the other box, which is called the Cod Caper. So they're beginner-friendly Linux box. Walk you through it. It's a little bit longer, so I don't blame you guys if you don't finish the entire thing tonight, but I do encourage you guys to work on it your own afterwards. So if you guys want to get started on this box, and if you guys are stuck or have any questions on anything while doing this box, I'll be here. I'll probably keep this meeting open until maybe 7:45 before I end it. So you guys feel free during that time to ask any questions if you guys get stuck on this room or anything like that. If you have any problems with OpenVPN or just general questions about pen testing or red teaming in general, I'll be here. But yeah, you guys need to go ahead and get started on that.